Hi everyone, it's Simon Peters, Walking the Way project manager here. Walking the Way is all about helping people to live out their faith in everyday life, whatever that might look like for them. And every synod in the URC is working hard to make that a reality for everyone. One of the ways that West Midlands Synod is responding is through the creation of booklets called Walking the Way Together, which Marion Thomas has been heavily involved in creating. These booklets offer prayers and reflections to help people think about God's presence precisely where they are right now, in their own home, in their community, in their town, in their village, wherever they are. These booklets are designed to help you think about God's presence where you are. I sat down recently with Diana Cullum-Hall, retired minister. I spoke to her about the impact of these booklets, including on her own life, and we also spoke a bit about the current lockdown situation, the importance of sharing good news and wisdom, and the ways that this time can be an opportunity, as challenging as it may be. Here's an extract from our conversation.
Right, I'm Diana Cullum-Hall and I'm a retired minister. I live in the West Midlands in Sutton Coldfield, and when she first did the very first, it was called Pilgrimage in the Park,
Mhm.
way back at the very beginning. We did that pilgrimage in Sutton Park, which is just down the road from where I live. So she was picking my brains for a lot of information about the park. But then when we actually did the pilgrimage, even though I'd fed in lots of information, it was a very, very special experience. And I mean, there were about 24 of us did it, and going around somewhere that I go around all the time, but looking at it in a different way, stopping at places and using her guided materials to think about those places, what they meant, and praying for the thoughts that came up from those places was really wonderful. And then obviously with lockdown and the coronavirus, those kind of things haven't been able to happen. And she'd already started to think about doing something for people who maybe couldn't get to pilgrimages. And this is the result, the walking the way where you are. And I think it's a wonderful resource because um, you can do it walking in your locality, but for people who can't get out, you can also do it in your imagination, which I think is very special. With this, she's taken various aspects and used them as a source of reflection and prayer. So the first one is saying to people, looking out your window. If you've been shut in, what can you see looking out your window? And using that as a starter for praying for your local area, for your neighbours, and just thinking about that. And then she asks us to think about a local green space, your local park or something like that. Even if you can't get to it, you can think about it, imagine it. And she uses that as a way for praising God for the beauty of creation and the wonder of the peace and beauty of nature, which I think we've all been very aware of during lockdown. The next one she's thinking about was the local playground. And I think we all know about where our local playgrounds are or the local school, and asking us to think about that and thinking about children. And I think particularly about children at the moment, when I know one of my little granddaughters has gone back to school today for the first time. So I think we're we're thinking very much about children. I think the next one she was thinking about was, where's your local pool, lake, stream? Where is water local to you? And to imagine that and using that as a reflection to think about our use of water, and of course praying for places where they haven't got clean water and those kind of things. The next one, she was thinking about a specific place in the West Midlands, which was a place where local preachers used to stand and, you know, deliver their message. And she was thinking there about, how do we as a church, our local church, proclaim the good news for people round about, and praying for how our church does its mission. The next one was the local war memorial, because, you know, most places have got one, and to imagine being there and thinking about troubled places in the world and about peacemakers and praying for peace, those kind of things. And the last one was thinking about your local government offices or something like that, and thinking about the life of the nation and the people in authority who are having to make very difficult decisions at the moment, and praying for them. So that's a sort of synopsis of this wonderful little booklet. But for me, it's that thing of, you don't even have to go outside your house. You can use your imagination to walk with God and use these. I think it's a beautiful resource for helping us to walk with God and connecting it with where we live. So I was delighted when I received it, and thank Marion very much, because I think it's something you can use anywhere.
Indeed, I am really moved by it as well. It gets right in, as you say, to that ethos of whole of life discipleship, that wherever you are and whatever you're doing, God is there. And we need to take the time to think about that, pray about that, and reflect on how we're going to respond. And it's good to hear that it's had a personal impact on you as well, that you've been able to use it in your own life. I'm just thinking about the current time we're in, and the challenges that we've been facing. Because I'm just wondering what more we can do really to help people see this as a good opportunity, despite it being a difficult time.
I think, yes, I do think there is obviously there's been more time. But I also think that sort of having something like this helps to give you a focus for your thoughts and your reflections and your prayers. Because I think sometimes that, particularly when so many people have been on their own, that they can feel quite disconnected. And I mean, for me, I think one of the things that I've tried to do during this time is to make people still feel very much involved and connected. And something like this, I think it's wonderful, because you can know that other people are doing it, so you're connected in that way. But it also helps you to, because I think sometimes you can feel you don't know what to think about, you don't know what to pray about. And this gives you a sort of starter to launch you. And I think those kind of resources have been very special at this time. And you know, I've been really grateful for all the virtual services and online services, and I've done some of them myself, and I think it's really helpful to feel drawn in together and to still be a community.
Absolutely, that sense of connection, that you're not alone in these situations, um, that there's always someone thinking about you, caring for you, loving you. And it's been very moving to see the different ways that churches and individuals have responded very imaginatively in
Oh,
these
yeah.
times, often having to come up with solutions very quickly. You know, I recall recently hearing about a drive to have meals on Zoom with people who are lonely, which I thought was a very imaginative way to use this technology, which is really designed for meetings and conversations to help people who are feeling isolated and feel connected. And as you say, resources like this booklet are really helpful in giving people a chance to reflect on that presence of God in everyday reality and the role that we can all play in making a difference in our own lives and in others' lives, to build those connections.
I think it's been particularly that having somebody else's perspective, so that, yes, I mean, I walk in Sutton Park most days, and it for me is always a time of reflection and absolute wonder at God's creation. And yes, Marion actually asked me to write a prayer about that for the booklet, but it's other places as well. That idea of praying by the war memorial and thinking about the troubled places of the world and peacemakers and that kind of thing. So it's just her prompts to go somewhere that I maybe wouldn't have thought of, and that other people are having those prompts as well. Yeah, I've found it very helpful. It's been, as you said, very moving. And I'm sure you must be coming across all sorts of other resources as well. And this idea of sharing them between synods, I think, is brilliant.
Yes, it's been tremendous to see that discipleship is evidently a big priority across the URC. I think the Holy Spirit's doing something with that, such as the level of excitement in different ways across the denomination. And it wouldn't do if we were all the same anyway. I think that's a big strength of the URC, that we are all different and we do all serve in different ways, different parts of the body with different purposes and ideas, and that we can all be together and love each other and challenge each other within the context of that is been great to see. But just the stories coming forward of churches trying to find ways of figuring out what are the needs of our communities and cater for those with making up food parcels for families, for children in schools, and trying to find ways of keeping youth groups together, even although they can't meet physically, using technology to run holiday clubs, and to keep things going, even if it's a video for families to watch at home.
Yes.
Just something to keep people connected, as you said earlier. And as you were saying, just to let people know that we're all in this together. We're all working this out together. There's no right or wrong answer. But as long as we're willing to try and to show that love of Jesus, I think that always puts us on a good foot. And we find that people are quite forgiving in this time. If you try something new and it doesn't quite work out as you expected, we're all in a place where we're doing things that we don't expect and we don't know how they're going to go. So people are, I think, are much more open to trying new things, but also to getting them wrong and trying something else. And I really hope that from this time, that creativity will continue.
Yeah, I think that's very interesting what you're saying about getting things wrong, because obviously, because we're having to use all sorts of technology like Zoom that I've certainly never used before, and you obviously make mistakes and you're learning on the go kind of thing, and so things do go wrong, and whereas I sometimes think that we get so used to doing services in church, and we know what's happening, and I think we've had to rely on the Holy Spirit to get us through with a lot of these things, and as you say, people need to be forgiving and a bit more flexible about how things go, and those awful times when your mouse doesn't quite match what sound says and all those awful things. I think there's been a real sense of inspiration going on of the Holy Spirit, and giving people new creativity and challenging people to do things in new ways, which has been lovely.
Another thing I found really interesting is that because we've had to do all of these things where we are, we've had to do them within the context of our everyday reality. So for me, I've not been able to go into the office and do my work there. We've not been able to go into physical church buildings to worship or run our community outreach or different activities. We've had to do them from our homes, and it's been really interesting through YouTube and Zoom and even other forms of online technology to get just a slight glimpse into people's realities and homes, and children running up to the cameras, and life going on around. And it's really sort of solidified for me that idea of God's presence in the everyday by being able to see some of the everyday that people face.
Yeah. And thank you for doing this. I mean, I think, this idea of coordinating, but I think this sharing is so important, because so often I think things can all come in. They don't always go out again. And, this idea of sharing like this, well done.
Many thanks to Diana for a great conversation and a good endorsement of that sharing of good news and wisdom across the URC. If you've got a story about how your church or synod has helped you to live out your faith, we'd love to hear from you. So email us at wtw@urc.org.uk. We look forward to hearing from you. Until next time, stay safe. God bless.